Hi, I'm Miss Green Poppy and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about a film called Talk to Me. It came out in 2022, it's 95 minutes long and it is rated an 18, so caution advised. Some trigger warnings for this film include violence, injury detail, threats and references to so again, just be cautious. So a quick summary for this film. A group of friends discover that they can contact spirits using an embalmed severed hand. They become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying forces. This was written by Danny Filippo and Bill Heinzman, who's also worked on a lot of horror films. And this was directed by Danny Filippo and Michael Filippo, who also both worked on The Babadook, which came out in 2014. The box office for this film is an astounding $92.2 million. That's a lot of money. So I feel like you can already tell that this is going to be a good film. So let's get into the plot. We open at a house party in Adelaide, Australia, where there's a guy called Cole who's looking for his brother Duckett. He goes through the house party looking for Duckett and eventually finds him in a bedroom and he's rambling all sorts of nonsense. So Cole has to break the door down in order to get to Cole. Cole's talking about how his dad is saying horrible things and Cole reminds him that their dad is dead. So Cole brings him back through the house where everyone's filming Duckett on their phones. He turns around and Duckett stabs him in the chest before stabbing himself in the head. Sometime later, we come across Mia, who's a 17-year-old and she's the main character of the film. She's struggling with the second year anniversary of her mum's passing and she has quite a distant relationship with her father, so she's got quite a lot going on. It's worth noting that her mum did die of a pelvic and it's said that it was due to an accident. She did it and then tried to get help. So we cut to Mia picking up a young boy from an after-school event. His name is Riley and he is the little brother of Mia's best friend Jade. She gives him a ride home and on that car ride they come across a kangaroo in the middle of the road that looks like it's been hit by a car, it's dying. They stop and Riley begs Mia to put this kangaroo out of its misery and she tries, but obviously still dealing with quite recent grief herself. She can't kill the kangaroo and she takes Riley home. When they get to Riley's house, you're introduced to Jade, his older sister, Mia's best friend, and they kind of joke around for a bit and she tells her about the kangaroo, but Jade's more wrapped up in trying to be on the phone with her boyfriend Daniel. Mia tells Jade that there's a house party she wants to go to because she's heard about this hand that people are using to talk to dead people and she really wants to go and see if it's real for herself. At first Jade doesn't want to, but Mia kind of guilts her into it and they go to the party. So does Riley because he's waiting outside and he threatens to tell Jade's mum unless they agree to take him with them. So the three of them go to the party. The party, which is hosted by Hayley and Joss, is in full swing when they arrive and Jade and Hayley kind of talk about how Hayley's not a massive fan of Mia and Jade kind of explains, well, it's good to get her out, she wants to have fun. So during the party we also have Daniel arrive, who's Jade's boyfriend, and then the real fun starts happening. Everyone gathers round and Hayley's asking who wants to be the first to try the hand. Of course Mia wants to be first, so Mia volunteers herself and Jade's kind of like, are you sure? Yeah, I'm fine. So Mia sits down, they strap her in, and when she asks why, they say that you have to be strapped in. So they go on to explain to the party how it works. You're supposed to hold the hand and say, talk to me. And when you say that, a spirit appears on the other side of the table from you, random spirit. So Mia says it, talk to me. And across from her sits an old man. She freaks out, pulls her hand away, and everyone's kind of jeering like, woo. She's saying it's real, and Jade's going, no, you're lying, there was no one there. So Mia wants to prove it. Mia puts her hand back on the hand and says, talk to me. But this time, sat across from her is a bloated, drowned woman. She looks horrific, to be honest with you. Mia's going, I can't look at her, and Hayley just goes, you don't have to look at her, just say it. So she does. I let you in. And by saying that, she allows this spirit to possess her body. Now the rules are you can only do it for 90 seconds because if you do it any longer, the spirits might want to stay. You also have a candle for the start, which you light, and then you do this, and then at the end of the session you blow the candle out to close the doorway. So during Mia's go, she gets possessed by this bloated, drowned woman, and this spirit seems to focus a kind of menacing focus on Riley. Starts by saying, he's over there, which is freaky enough. And then things like the door slams shut, everyone's oohing and eyeing. Riley's obviously freaking out, I'd be freaking out. And then she points directly at him he's behind you now. He likes you. And it's frightening. Like, credit to Mia, because she's so frightening when she's under this possession. Joss and Hayley struggle to break the connection, so it overruns the 90 seconds by the time they manage to pry the hand away from Mia, who is sat in this chair, eyes fixated on Riley, shouting, "Run, run, run!" And it's kind of building and building. It's so creepy. But after this, Mia feels euphoric. She couldn't be happier. This couldn't have gone better. It went so well, in fact, that she convinces most of the main group to reconvene the next night. They go to Jade's house because they know Jade's mum won't be there. And this leads to one of my absolute favourite scenes of this film, and potentially one of my favourite horror scenes, like, generally. This is good. So we start with Daniel, who wants to take his first turn with the hand. He's giving away all of Daniel's, like, dirty, dark secrets. And by the end of Daniel's session, he's making out with Jade's dog. Credit to this actor, because he really goes through it. He runs out and he's followed by Jade, and he's going, "I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it." But within a few minutes, they're back and they're all ready to do it again, because this is such an addictive feeling. And sure, it's a bit humiliating at the time, but they can look back on it and laugh, right? So they keep doing it. And the way this scene is shot is just fantastic. The camera work, at one point they're in the chair, it's going this way, it's going that way. It's just, oh, and the music is so jovial and comical and light. And you see them speaking and singing in French. Hayley starts crying at one point. It's just kind of this manic scene, but it's all lighthearted until it isn't. Riley really wants to go. And it's probably worth noting that if Mia and Jade are like 17, Riley's probably more like 14, 15. So of course, Jade says no, she doesn't want him involved. She hasn't been involved. I don't think she's even touched the hand. So she fights with Riley about it. He calls her a name and she leaves, and Daniel goes after her to try and calm her down. At this point, Riley is desperate. He turns to Mia and he begs her, "Just let me do 60 seconds. And she caves and says, "Okay, but only 50. So they strap him in and they begin his session. He says, "Talk to me." And his face kind of drops. Mia's there going, it's okay, it's fine. Just say it. And then he says it, "I'll let you in." And his possession takes a little longer. They worry about him for a second and suddenly he's there. So when the spirit comes through to Riley, he starts talking to Mia, and it takes a few seconds, but Mia starts to think, no, is Mia's mum communicating to her through Riley? She's trying to reconcile with Mia, trying to apologise to Mia. Mia's stunned. They try and cut it off at the 50 seconds, and she says, "Please, no, it's my mum, I need to talk to my mum." So they let it carry on over because they've got to 90, right? She talks to her mum for a bit longer, but suddenly the words start getting muffled coming out of Riley, and it's almost like another spirit's taking over him. And then when this spirit takes over him, Riley head down to the table. Bang, and again, bang, 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 again and again and again. This scene has gone from being really lighthearted and kind of jokey to suddenly taking a really intense, really serious turn. He starts trying to pop his eye out. Mia manages to intervene and stop him, and then his body is flung across the room in the chair. Like some force is just thrown him across the room, and he starts hitting his head on one of the cabinets. At this point, Jade hears the ruckus. She comes in, sees what's happening. Everyone's kind of frozen. They don't know what to do. So she manages to intervene, lodge her hand in there before he does one last headbutt, saves his life and probably breaks a hand. Riley's then taken to hospital in a critical condition. At this point, Mia is starting to hallucinate things while she's in the hospital. She thinks she can see and hear her mum. She's also being blamed for what's happened to Riley. They don't know what's happened, so she is being shunned by Jade's family, thinking that she has done something to cause this harm to Riley. It's also worth noting that Jade's mum is almost like a second mother to Mia, so obviously this is going to hurt Mia quite a lot. Daniel goes after Mia in the hospital, who's really upset, manages to calm her down, and he explains he doesn't really have anywhere to stay for the night because he'd lied to his parents about where he was going to stay. So Mia offers him to sleep platonically at her house. They're asleep, and then Mia wakes up. She sees something in the corner of the room. It's the bloated woman, the drowned woman, curled up in the corner of the room, making just horrible noises. She starts freaking out, and this woman starts crawling closer. She starts really quickly crawling towards the end of the bed that Daniel's on, crawling up. She grabs his foot and she starts sucking on his feet. So she gets up shouting at Daniel, wake up, wake up, wake up. But when Daniel does wake up, there's no drowned woman in there. It's Mia sucking on his feet. So like I said, this actor did not get paid enough because he had to make out with a dog and he had his feet sucked on by 2 different people. So Daniel leaves and Mia is freaking out. So now you find out that Mia, during the whole debacle with Riley, has stolen the hand and she's going to use it to try and communicate more with her mum. She talks to her mum, who tells her that her death wasn't an accident. She kind of insinuates someone did this to her, kind of insinuates who it might be. And then she says she knows that the spirits have Riley and that he's in pain and they need to free Riley. Back at the hospital, we have Riley and Jade and their mum bathing Riley, who looks in a terrible, terrible way. Jade's mum leaves to take a call, and when she does, Riley comes back to consciousness, bites Jade, and then flings himself back and continues to hit his head into the tile, further damaging Riley's head. And the whole time he's laughing, he's mimicking and taunting Jade. She's going, stop it, Riley. And he goes, stop it, Riley. It's just horrid. Back with Mia, she ends up falling asleep, spooning the spirit of her dead mum. She doesn't break the connection, she doesn't blow the candle out, and this connection is now fully open between her and this spirit, which means she also starts seeing it without the use of the hand. At this point, we know she's kind of losing her grip on reality. It's heartbreaking to see because she's been through a lot already, and now this is really traumatic and not pleasant, and she is going through it even more now. The group decide they need to find Cole, so they track down Cole, who's at a bus stop, get on the bus with him. He's not really up to talking to them, but Jade and Mia explain that Jade's brother's possessed and that it's really bad. Cole explains that eventually any living host will start to naturally expel these spirits, but Jade says, I don't think I've got time. Every time he wakes up he tries to hurt himself. I don't know what to do. At which point they get off the bus and Jade and Mia have an argument, and Jade's not very pleasant, but obviously she's also, you know, really struggling. So Mia comes up with the idea that the connection, we didn't end it in Riley's session, maybe that's what we need to do. We need to give this another go. So they all go back to the hospital and they try to get Riley to do the hand thing. Obviously he can't talk. So Mia comes up with the idea that she will try and communicate with Riley's spirit in limbo or wherever it is he is. So she uses the hand. She says, talk to me, and she's greeted with a little girl. It's not Riley, it's a little girl. But she asks the little girl if she knows where Riley is, and she nods. I can take you to him. So Mia agrees, and the little girl then says, I let you in. And Mia's taken to this really horrible vision, all in red, where Riley's effectively being captured by the spirits, but there's so many bodies, so many hands, you can't even see what's going on, but you know it's grim. She comes out of this vision and she's panicked. They ask what she saw. She doesn't want to do it anymore. She wants to know further part in this. So she then goes home and her dad is waiting for her. He sits her down and says he's really sorry, he's got something to tell her, it's not nice, and he's sorry for holding it back from her, but her mother's death wasn't an accident. She did mean to do it, and she left a note that he reads to her, but she's been talking to him, but also said it wasn't an accident. At this point she has no idea what to believe. She goes upstairs and sees her mother again, who says, your father's lying, it wasn't an accident, I didn't do it on purpose, he killed me, your dad killed me. So Mia's deep into this, almost like hallucination at this point. Her dad hears the commotion upstairs and he goes, her real dad goes to check on her, sees her struggling on the floor by herself. But what she sees is a demonic version of her dad that's come into the room trying to kill her. So she's struggling on the floor against this version of her dad. She picks up a weapon and she stabs him in the neck. But what she's really done is stab her real dad in the neck, who posed no harm to her and was just trying to help. But she's like completely disassociated from reality at this point. She's got no idea what's real and what's not. So she leaves her dad bleeding out on the floor, and her mum says, we need to help Riley. You need to kill Riley. That's the only way he's going to be free. So she goes to the hospital. She calls Jade and gives Jade a distraction, and goes to the hospital and kidnaps Riley. She takes him outside in a wheelchair and starts pushing him towards a really busy highway. Jade catches on to the ruse when she gets to Mia's house and finds Mia's dad bleeding out. So she rushes back to the hospital in time to catch Mia pushing Riley towards this highway. She's running, screaming, begging Mia to stop. And while Mia's doing this, it's not Riley in that chair. It's an old man who is mocking her and taunting her and saying, go on, do it, do it. And as she gets right to the lip of the highway, it all comes to a head. and instead of pushing Riley out into the oncoming traffic, she jumps. Mia jumps into the traffic and dies. We cut to a later scene of Mia in the hospital. She sees Riley and Jade and their mum, and he is fully recovered. He is not possessed anymore and he is doing well. She then sees her father, who has lived, and he's on his way out of the hospital. She's reaching out, she's calling out, they can't hear her, they don't respond. She looks in the mirror and has no reflection. She looks down at her hands, and they're mangled. And she's kind of putting the pieces together and it all goes black. In the distance, there's a light. She gets closer. It's a candle. And the hand. She sits down. And she takes the hand. And she's transported to Greece. She's in a house party, sitting across from a man who looks at her in shock and says, "I let you in." And that's the end of this film. So let's talk about the themes of this film. It's supernatural horror. I mean, obviously they're talking to spirits, so it does, feed into all the possession, spirity, demony kind of subgenres of horror. There's also inescapable mentions and tones throughout of grief and loss and mourning, from Mia's mum dying to what she's going through with her dad and the kangaroo, which in my opinion is what led to the next kind of theme, which is addiction. And we're not talking about substance addiction, although at one point they talk about how addictive cigarettes are, so I'm kind of linking that up here. So the addiction of this hand and the euphoria it gives you, they want to do it again and again and again. And obviously every time they do it, it comes with the risks that, Mia found out the hard way. But it's the use of escapism. They're teenagers, they're not turning to drugs, they're not turning to alcohol, they're turning to contacting the dead, basically using a Ouija board to get some kind of thrill. Let's talk about the script, which I think did an amazing job. It painted the story really well. It explained it all really well. I wasn't left asking questions. It did the perfect job at filling in all the blanks. And I think obviously I'm a big fan of accents, and the Australian accents in this were just delicious. And I think it also added to kind of the tone of the film, because I think maybe stereotypically Aussies are seen as, being very funny. And so it kind of gives it quite a light-hearted, tone. And I think the mixture of the use of anxiety and comedy was beautiful. Like, I think they complemented each other perfectly. There was enough of both that it gave you some light comedic moments to kind of bring the tone back up so it could just drop it again. I thought the script was perfectly informal and it wasn't, cringy at all, considering it was kind of catering to a more modern horror audience, which, there's a lot more younger people now. I don't think it was your kind of teen screamy script. I think it did the perfect job and it was just adult enough. Let's talk about the plot. What a creepy concept for a film. Like I said, there's a lot of, demonic possession horrors, things like Evil Dead with the books. But truly, like, the idea of a severed and embalmed hand that you use to communicate with the dead, creepy and disgusting, and I love it. Where did this hand come from? I mean, everyone loves a paranormal spook fest, but this had the right amount of gore, the right amount of jumps, the right amount of twists and turns. And it left you as the audience kind of questioning everything while you go on this insane ride with Mia. Acting wise, I think everyone did just a fabulous job in this film. Shout out to Mia, who was played by Sophie Wilde, and also to Riley, who was played by Joe Bird. They both did really fantastic jobs portraying their characters. Each character oozed of distress and grief and pain. It was hypnotic. You can empathise with everyone involved for all of the different reasons. Each character has their own reasons for doing what they're doing, and the fear is just absolutely paramount throughout. I really love the use of contrast in this film. The night and day difference between the really jovial, light-hearted scene, the first possession scene where they were all just speaking in French, making old dogs. It was all just light-hearted banter kind of to begin with, and then it just snaps, it just switches, and when it turns with that scene with Riley, literally within the kind of same scene, it goes from one end to the absolute other, from 0 to 100 real quick. And it's just so stressful and intense the way he absolutely pulverizes his face. And I think, like I said, the Aussie accents kind of disarm you for these jumps and these bits that you're not expecting, and they make them hit even harder. Talking of contrast, I love the contrast used in the cinematography of Talk to Me. Towards the beginning, it's really bright and colourful, very vibrant. It's uplifting, playing kind of light music. It's just a light and sweet atmosphere to begin with, which then begins rotting away as the film progresses. The scenes become much darker in, theme as well as in lighting. The music gets darker. It just all turns really sinister, and it's a creepy little watch. It all adds to the hopelessness, which I think is abundantly clear towards the end of this film. I also really love the use of tension and scares in this film. At the beginning, they're not over the top, but the film builds the tension and it builds the scares. So it starts off smaller and then it becomes more serious, more stressful. I didn't feel like I could predict what was coming next, which is always a fantastic point in, especially in modern horrors where, you know, a lot of stuff's been done. So it's a nice change and I think is a wonderful take on a modern horror film. Or wise, this film doesn't necessarily revolve around gore, but when it does do gore, it does it well. It does it masterfully. I went and saw this film in the cinema when it came out, and the scene with Riley that I keep talking about had me on the edge of my seat. It had me gasping in the cinema. The brutality at times truly has you like nibbling your fingernails while you're watching. You are just paranoid about what's going to happen next. But is this plot believable? No. Of course it's not. I mean, I really hope this wouldn't happen in real life. But it's not meant to be a realistic film. The plot feels perfectly realistic while you're watching it when you're immersing yourself in the universe of this film. It does a really good job of making you believe what you're watching. The horror and just general panic it instills in you while you're watching, like I said, is nail-biting perfection. So let's talk about pros and cons. Pro-wise, I loved, like I said, the gore. It was done artfully, and also the twists and turns, they were well done. It wasn't just, you know, twists for the sake of twists. It's also a new take on possession horror, like I keep saying, which I really find quite unique, and it really held my interest while I was watching it. It's a film I've come back to rewatch dozens of times at this point, and it's basically just as good every single time I watch it. My only real con for this film is the ending. Let me explain why. It's not bad, it's just this was a very dark film, and I am a sucker for a happy ending, even in horror. I think Mia had been through so much already that I would have really liked to see an ending where she could have kind of overcome her own demons and saved her own life, as well as not pushing Riley into traffic. Though I'm sure it will make for a really interesting sequel. Let's talk about some similar films. I love referring to The Evil Dead when I'm talking about possession horror because it's just one of the staples, isn't it? But another film that kind of comes to mind when I think of this for the weirdest reason is The Butterfly Effect. Mainly due to the ending, because Mia's kind of in the same situation in The Butterfly Effect at the end, where the only way everyone else can be happy is if you suffer. So Mia opts to end in order to make sure everyone else can continue theirs. Let's finally move on to the ratings. Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 9.5 out of 10, and the audience weren't far behind with an 8 out of 10. I think that's really fair, and it truly is a really, really good film, and that's why I'm agreeing with Rotten Tomatoes with a 9.5 out of 10. So I'm really interested to hear what you've thought about this film. I would hope that a lot of you have probably already seen this, or if you haven't, it should be on your lists, because this is a fantastic, I keep saying it, a fantastic modern take on horror, and I think if you like ghosty films, this is for you. If you like gory films, this is for you. It's truly just a lovely, lovely piece of horror, and I would implore you to go and watch it for yourself if you haven't already. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you think of the film if you have seen it, or go and watch it and then come back and tell me what you think. If you like this video, please leave me a like. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, I have so much more to come, so many more exciting films to talk with you about. So like, comment and subscribe, and I really can't wait to do this with you again soon. Thanks, bye.